And Job is really fitting in, in my life and in most of our lives, because sometimes whenever our life is going on, and it seems like, man, when it rains, it pours, right? It's not just this one little thing. It's this thing, and you get about a quarter of the way through that, and something else happens, and it's just on and on and on, things that go on. And I would really hope that I was the only one that had to whose life was like that, but I'm pretty sure I'm not. I can just talk to folks and know that's not the case. And in my life, when it gets like that, when it's just one thing after another, a lot of times I think about Job. I'm really glad that the Lord saw fit to put Job in His Word, for selfishly for me, but for all of us, because it is something that's good for us to go back and look at. I think He put it in there because He knew what kind of days we were going to have, and it's something that we can go back and we can relate to Job. Job wasn't a disciple. He wasn't a prophet. He was just a regular guy. He was just a dude. He was just regular folks. But he was regular folks that just loved God and was faithful to God. And he had been very blessed by God. He was pretty loaded financially. He was probably the man in the area that he lived in. He wasn't just like loaded, he was like loaded, like big time. And you might say, well, I'm not rich, so, how can I relate to Job? My response to that would be that I hope and pray that we don't judge our blessings from God with a checkbook, because that's not the measure of God's love and God's blessing. But concentrate on the regular guy that loved God and who was very faithful to God and who was blessed by God. And it was brought up how much Job had such a great love and trust of God. We talked about that Wednesday night. And he had that love and that faithfulness to God. Do you know how much of the Bible Job had? Nara. He didn't have any of the Bible that we're blessed to have today. But he still had that love for God, and he still had that faithfulness to God. There's a fact that was true in the very beginning. It was true in Job's time, and it's going to be true until Jesus decides to come back. And that truth is this: any person who is faithful and committed to God should expect Satan's attacks. That just comes with being a Christian, because he don't like it. He don't like the fact that he don't like you because you decided to give your life to Jesus Christ. As a follower of Jesus Christ, you are in the crosshairs of every weapon that the enemy's got. And he wants to use them on you so bad he can't stand it. He will use anything he can against you, whether it's loved ones, whether it's finances, lust, trust. I mean, the list is as long. The list is as long as anything that will affect you. He'll use it. We're getting ready to begin something here at Faith that hopefully will bring a lot of people to Jesus and a lot of people to salvation. We call it Judgment Journey. How upset do you think the enemy is at that? He's hot. because he knows what it produces. Since we really started, gearing up for Judgment Journey just this year, think back at all the things that people started going through since this happened. It's a pretty long list. It's a pretty long list of people that are involved and care about what we're fixing to start doing. Take a few moments at some point in your day and think about, if the devil is that upset at what we're fixing to do out here, how pleased must the Lord be about it? These things, these issues, these troubles, whatever you want to call them, they're coming. They're probably going to come in some form against each and every one of us. But it's worth it. It's worth it. When they start ringing that bell, it's worth it. You think about everything, how you don't feel real good. Your schedule is getting messed up. Things are going on. Things are happening to a loved one. All these things are going on in our lives, and then they start ringing that bell. It wasn't so bad. Every bit of that was worth one ringing of one bell one time. If we spend, 9 nights, they ring that bell one time, it's all worth it. Every bit of it. As far as Job goes, a little background on Job. Job lived probably somewhere around 2,000 years before Jesus Christ was ever born. He's of course, he lived after in the beginning part, but a lot of the book of Genesis, he's believed to live before that part, before or around the time of Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, all these individuals of God's Word. It's the 18th book of the Bible. I don't know why it's number 18 when it happened so early, but that's where they got led to put it. But as far as Job goes, and I've used this comparison before, I've got a buddy of mine up close to where I live. He's got a pretty good sized farm. He's got, at one point, I spoke with his daddy, and he had around 800 heads of cattle. I don't know how many chicken houses. He's got a lot going on. He's got a pretty good sized farm. 800 cows. Job, on the other hand, owned 7,000 sheep, 3,000 camels, 1,000 oxen, and 500 donkeys. He had it going on. Huge. Pretty big operation going on. So over in the book of Job, in the first chapter, starting in verse 6, it says, "Now there was a day when the sons of God came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan came also among them. And the Lord said unto him, Satan, whence cometh thou? Then Satan answered and said, From going to and fro in the earth, and from walking up and down in it. And the Lord said unto Satan, Hast thou considered my servant Job, that there is none like him in the earth, perfect and an upright man, one that feareth God and escheweth evil? Then Satan answered the Lord and said, Doeth Job fear God for naught? Hast not thou made a hedge about him, and about his house, and about all that he hath on every side? Thou hast blessed the work of his hands, and his substance is increased in the land. But put forth thine hand now, and touch all that he hath, and he will curse thee to thy face. And the Lord said unto Satan, Behold, all that he hath is in my power. Only upon himself put not forth thy hand. So Satan went forth in the presence of the Lord." See, Satan believes that Job only loves God because of all his blessings. You done blessed him, now he's loaded. Look at all the stuff he's got. That's why he loves you. Satan don't get it. He don't understand. He doesn't understand Job's heart. You ever talk with somebody and you look at them and you can tell, man, they just don't get it. You know, they just don't understand what's going on. A lot of times you look at them folks and you just have to squint at them and go, you know what I mean? They just don't get it. That's the way the devil, he don't get it. He don't understand the love of God that's in our hearts. He didn't understand Job's heart. He don't understand your heart. Satan thought that Job was just as selfish and materialistic as he is. He doesn't have and he don't want the love of God that we desire in our hearts. But in this, we also learn a few things about the devil in the Scriptures. And we need to remember these. You might say that you don't want to learn anything about the devil. You better. You better know all you can about him. Of course, it's more important to know about God. But God created all the angels. And when He called, Satan had to show up. He didn't have a choice. In verse 11, we find out that Satan can't see into our minds and he can't tell the future. If he could, he would have known how all this was going to work out. If he could have seen into our minds and our hearts and in the future, he would have known that Job wasn't going to break. In verse 12, we find out, and this is a big one, he needs God's permission. He don't just get to run around here and do everything he wants to. He's got to have God's permission. He couldn't mess with Job until God allowed it. He can't mess with you until God allows it. Satan said that Job was going to curse God if he took everything that he had. God said, I don't think so. He said, go ahead. Test him. Do what you want to do. You just can't touch his body. Do whatever you want to do. Test him. See what happens. Here's my question for you today. If the devil said the same thing about you, would God tell him, go on, try it? Go on and test him and see what happens. How confident are you that God would say that about you or me and our faithfulness? Verse 12 also tells us that God puts limitations on Satan. Like we said, you can test him, but you can't hurt him physically. You ever wonder if God already made that same deal about you? Go on, devil, do whatever you want to him. See what happens. One of the things that I really like in here is we learn that the devil don't get to make the rules. God's in charge of all this. You might ask, why would God allow the devil to put you through this? If God's in charge of this, why is He letting the devil do these things to me? Here's a tough question with a tough answer. The question is, why would God allow me to go through all of this? Why do we think we don't deserve it? As sinful as we are. And that stings a little bit to say it. Why do we think we don't deserve it? Maybe these hard battles that you're going through, maybe hard battles are for hard soldiers. God's soldiers out here. Maybe we have to go through stuff today to prepare us for stuff down the road. It's hard to go through a big fight if you ain't ever been through a little fight. And if your fights get a little harder and a little harder, and you see that God's going to bring you through them fights, when the big one gets here, and it's sure enough fight time, what is it Donald says? Your faith is as strong as the hardest thing you ever been through. That's pretty good. That's a pretty good statement that we ought to tell ourselves pretty often and remind ourselves. On down through Job, in verses 13 through 15, Job finds out that the Sabian folks, this is like a pre-Islamic culture, they came and stole all his oxen, all his mules, and he killed all the servants that was watching him. Half his flock gone, killed in the blink of an eye. All the workers, all the servants that he had watching all these people, they're dead. They're gone. Boom, just like that. Imagine if somebody come up to you and you found out that half of everybody you work with is gone. Everything that they worked with and on, poof, been toted away. That's a pretty big hit to anybody, any company, anything. And then, in verse 16, while he's finding out about all his oxen and all his mules, another guy comes up and tells him that fire from heaven fell and it burned up all his sheep and all the servants that was watching them. Man, he ain't even processed this first story he got told yet. And this second dude shows up. And another large portion of everything he had and everybody that he knew and worked with were gone. And then in verse 17, while that second dude is telling his story, he finds out that the Chaldeans came and stole all the camels and killed all the servants that were watching over those camels. He was like, man, he can't even get done with one story before another cat shows up. You talking about when it rains, it pours. Boom, boom, boom. In verse 18, while that other dude was telling his story, another guy comes up and tells him that all his sons and all his daughters have been killed when the house fell in on all of them. Now you think about whoever you work for, owner of the company, whatever. Every single person that works for you is gone and dead, been killed. Everything within that company or that organization, everything's been gone. The chair, the trash can, everything. Toted out. Taken away. And then you find out all your children have been killed. Here's a question. Tell me how bad your week's been. I thought I had it bad riding home in Atlanta traffic in an air-conditioned truck. This jugger has lost everything and everybody, for the most part, that he knew. Everybody he worked with on a daily basis. Everything he owned is gone. And he has it ain't like he messed up. It ain't like he invested wrongly in the stock market, lost everything he had, took a chance. This is a man that is loving and faithful to God. Everything gone just like that. Job This story of Job is something that I think about when I'm having a bad day. I'm having a bad week. You know, things just ain't going the way you want it to go. And things is like, good grief, can it be any more? And I think about Job, and he lost everything. I don't mean most of everything. I mean everything. And I think about Job not because of what happened to him. I think about Job because of how he reacted to what happened to him. In verse 20, Job got upset. He tore his clothes. He shaved his head. It's okay to be upset. It's okay to be upset. They would probably be more worried about him if all this happened and he wasn't upset. He grieved. He hurt. But then he fell down to the ground and he worshiped God. How often can we say, honestly, often can we honestly say that we follow Job's example in that? Probably not as often as we wish we could say. I can only speak for me, and I usually go from grief straight to whiny butt for a period of time. I do, and I don't mean to, and I don't want to. I want to do like Job did and fall to the ground and worship God, and I try. And honestly, I get there, but sometimes it takes me a hot minute to get there. It takes me longer than I wish it took me. I put it like that. There's a song. Let me read this, verse 21. After in verse 20 it said, Then Job arose and rent his mantle and shaved his head. So he tore his clothes, he shaved his head, and he fell to the ground and worshipped. And said, Naked I came out of my mother's womb, naked shall I return thither. The Lord gave and the Lord hath taken away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. And he was like, oh, the Lord done took away everything I got. Well, that's cool. He give it to you. What made you think it was yours to have anyway? He letting you hold on to it for a little while. Guess what? After you dead and gone, somebody else going to play with your toys anyway. All this going on, he fell to the ground and he worshiped. He said, I didn't show up here with nothing, I ain't going to leave with nothing. Blessed be the name of the Lord. I've told y'all before about a fellow I know named Ricky Atkinson. Go on YouTube. Listen to his song called Blessed Be the Name of the Lord. It's about 4 minutes of your life well spent. So we read about Job and how he reacted. He fell to the ground. He said, naked I got here, naked I'm leaving. Is that your reaction when things go south in your life? Ain't nobody raising their hand. Yeah, me neither. Not like I wish it was. I try to think about Job, and honestly, when I do, it kind of helps me get back in line. It kind of straightens me out a little bit, tightens me up a little bit when I get a little too far over in the whiny butt and poochy lip about what's going on. We need to try to live our lives where our first reaction to that is trusting in the Lord. And it's okay to say, Lord, I don't know what's going on, and I don't understand, and I'll be straight. I don't like it. You know, that's okay. It's all right. Because a lot of times we don't see the end result. We don't see the end of the plan. Mainly because, hey, maybe it's not time for us to see the end of the plan yet. We should all pray that our trust in the Lord will be as strong as Job's is. I'm working on it. I'm getting there. I ain't there yet. But I'm trying. I'm working on it. I hope I'm better at it tomorrow than I am today. And so on and so on. There's a lot more to Job's story in the book of Job. And I encourage everybody to read it. But a lot of times, I've always in my life heard about the patience of Job. Oh, that joker, he's got the patience of Job. Ain't nobody ever said that about me, but they say it about other people. Other than the patience of Job, I try to concentrate on the faithfulness of Job. He was faithful. And no matter what, he was faithful and trusting in God. And I pray that we're all faithful and trusting, even when things ain't going our way. It's easy to be faithful and trusting when everything's smooth and you riding in life on this smooth blacktop. It's the dirt roads in our life and them potholes that our faithfulness and our trusting is tested. When I think about Job, I think about being a, even if he don't, Christian. We need to think, what kind of Christian are we, even if he don't? We all like to think that we're an even if he don't Christian. But unfortunately, there's only one way to know whether or not you're one of them, even if he don't kind of folks, kind of Christians. We have to be in a position where he don't. He doesn't answer our prayers the way that we thought he should. And he doesn't rescue us the way we wanted him to. And he doesn't make everything all right when we want him to. So think about the last time you were in a position to where he didn't. How did you react when he didn't? No, you're good. How did you react as a Christian if he didn't? Were you even if he don't Christian? I'll be honest, sometimes I have been and sometimes I hadn't been. If the last time and most of the time you are one of those even if he don't Christians, man, high five to you. And if you weren't one of them, don't feel like the Lone Ranger. Welcome to the class. Sometimes we are and sometimes we aren't. But we can strive to be that even if he don't kind of Christian. So what are we going to do differently the next time? The next time something don't work out like we wanted it to. Our faith and our trust in God should not be in proportion to how much we like or understand our situation. Whatever the situation is, our faithfulness to God should not depend on how much we understand or how much we like this situation. They're two separate things. And I got to thinking again, looking at this, about the whole even if he don't thing. And then I kind of looked at it from a different angle, I guess. If somebody asked Jesus if he loves those who don't love him, don't follow him, don't accept him, he'd probably tell them, yeah, even if they don't. If they ask God if he loves those who don't trust him, don't worship him, don't obey him, he'd probably say, yeah, even if they don't. Job lost everything he had. everything. And he got upset. And then he fell to the ground and worshiped God. I pray if we don't get anything from this, we take that one little sentence. Verse 20, he rose, he rent his mantle, he shaved his head, he fell to the ground and worshiped. I pray that we all get better at that. And I pray that we all grow our faithfulness in God, even if He don't. Even if He don't. If y'all will, please bow your heads. Yes. Yeah. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you so much for everything, all of our blessings. Lord, I want to thank you for the book of Job that helps me and helps us to know how to react when you don't answer our prayers the way we think they ought to be answered, even when you don't. Job shows us how we as Christians should react. Lord, I want to thank you for this. Lord, I want to ask you to help each and every one of us apply this story of Job to our lives, that we may be faithful to you, even when things aren't going our way, even when we don't understand, and even when we just don't have the answers we wish we had. Lord, thank you so much for this book. Lord, help us to use this story in your word to help us through this life that we have to go through. Lord, I ask you to be with us as we leave here today till we can get back together again next Sunday. Lord, I ask you to be with the pastor as he brings this message. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.